This is One Sentence News, a daily podcast featuring 3 news stories with a sentence-long summary and 1 sentence of context apiece. I'm Colin Wright. This is a sponsored message. I've been using Anchor as my podcast host for a while now, and it's been a pleasure to use. Anchor offers benefits that most other hosts do not. It's free to use, but it also has a collection of tools that allow you to create a podcast completely within the Anchor website or smartphone app. They distribute your show to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other distribution channels without any additional effort on your part, and you can make money from your podcast without any minimum audience size. So you can use it as a more traditional podcast host like I do, but it's also got everything you need to start a podcast from scratch. If you're keen to give it a shot, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. It's Friday, May 6th, 2022. Let's talk about the news. From the New York Times, Russia-Ukraine War Summary. Russia's forces beyond the eastern Donbas region of Ukraine have reportedly been focused on destroying military hardware supplied to Ukrainian forces by allied nations and the infrastructure required to move that hardware. But assessments of the success of this strategy depend on who you ask. Russian officials claim they're capably taking out their intended targets, while Ukrainian officials and outside parties like the Pentagon say this hardware is still arriving where they want it to be, without much trouble. And the US government has reportedly offered the Swedish government military assurances should they decide to apply for NATO membership, essentially promising to come to their defense if they're attacked by Russia in the interstitial period between applying and being accepted into the military alliance. Similar comments were recently made publicly about Finland and their potential near-future NATO membership as well. There's been quite a lot of chatter that Russian President Putin might have been planning to use Russia's May 9th Victory Day holiday this year to celebrate victory in Ukraine. But now that such a victory is out of immediate reach, he might instead declare a formal war on that day, replacing the euphemistic special military operation terminology the government has been using up till this point. This would enable a more cohesive military escalation and leveraging of social, economic, and military resources for the invasion, but it would also put the country onto a war footing, which comes with its own risks and challenges. When asked about this possibility on Wednesday, a Kremlin spokesperson called the potential for such a declaration, quote-unquote, nonsense. From SciTech Daily, scientists discover genetic cause of lupus. A new study published by an international team of researchers say they've discovered a cause of the autoimmune disease lupus, a DNA mutation in a gene called TLR7 that was identified and then introduced into mice using CRISPR-based gene editing techniques, and those mice went on to develop lupus, which confirmed their suspicion. This pathway to developing lupus is unlikely to be the only cause of this disease, which causes inflammation in joints and organs and can cause fatigue, movement, and skin issues, and for which there's no cure, only immunosuppressor treatments. But it could help researchers understand lupus more holistically and has already pointed at some new research paths they might take. In the meantime, researchers are also working with pharmaceutical companies to see if there might be a way to either develop a new treatment or repurpose an existing one to target the TLR7 gene in a beneficial way for those afflicted with this version of the disease. And from the Wall Street Journal, NFT sales are flatlining. The market for non-fungible tokens, or NFTs, seems to be tanking, dropping from a pandemic-era high of about 225,000 daily sales last September down to around 19,000 earlier this week. The term NFT refers to what might otherwise be non-scarce, usually digital things, like JPEG images, that are made, ostensibly at least, unique or scarce by creating a receipt or other proof of ownership, often on what's called a blockchain, which is a permanent, publicly viewable ledger of transactions. So sales of receipts for digital things documented on blockchains hit a near-frenzied high at the end of last year and have been dropping ever since, resulting in some news-making low-priced sales and valuations of things that were previously selling for tens of millions of dollars. This has led to comparisons with the Beanie Baby bubble back in the late 1990s and into the early 2000s, and the dot-com crash that followed a frenzy of tech startup investments around the same time. If you're finding some value in One Sentence News, consider leaving a quick review wherever you get your podcasts and/or sharing the show with a friend. You can find out more about this show or subscribe to the email version at onesentencenews.com, and you can support this and other related projects like the Let's Know Things and Brain Lenses podcasts at understandery.com.